Welcome to Longbangers. I'm Matty.
Hello, I'm Colin.
I'm John.
How are you both doing? John, first of all, welcome back. You've had a wee break to get into that distance. You all better now?
Aye, aye.
Good.
Fucking hell. Aye.
Plugged it up.
That's a good start, eh?
Aye.
On a
Plugged
on
it
a
up.
on a vehicle that demands that you speak about things, and I'm just like, aye, fine.
Aye. Aye, good. At least you know how to practice. Colin, how are you doing?
All right. I'm not bad. I'm not bad. Did I ask how you are?
No, I don't think you did.
The thing is,
I'm not going to bother.
No,
Aye,
I wouldn't
probably
bother either. Like,
Yeah.
what's going to happen? I was going to tell you the story about my haircut. Like, I shared it on the group, but I thought it
Right.
was quite a funny story to tell
Aye.
anyway. So YouTube viewers will have observed by now. Oh, Matty's looking sharp today because I've had a haircut. So have you, Colin, noticed you've had the shave as well?
I gave it a wee
No,
tidy up on Friday. Aye.
aye. So
I just what
on
the fucking scruffy bastard said,
no, but we didn't have a before for the after for you, John, because you like I can't remember what the last episode you were on as a reference point to say whether or not your hair looks better or worse. It looks neat. Don't get me wrong, it does look neat.
I did have it cut, I think, a week on Friday ago.
So I went on Friday at lunchtime, right? So we lunchtime haircut down to the barbers in Abbeyview in Dunfermline. It's called Ace of Fades as well, right? So for anybody who likes like sort of instead of Ace of Spades, Ace of Fades, um, we play on words. And so I get there, sit down, and the guy's cutting my hair, and he goes to check length. You know, like at the top, they kind of go this long, and I went, "Right, perfect, thank you." And he was quite impressed. I'd say thank you at that point. I think the last point hadn't had any manners, so we had a wee chat about manners. And then I asked the guy where he was from, and he said he was from Sudan. And I says, well, how did you end up in Dunfermline? So he's living in Manchester for a bit, came up to, anyway, it doesn't matter. He ended up in Dunfermline. I said, was it the war that made you leave Sudan? And he says, yes. He says, I'll show you some videos. And I was like, oh, all right. So anyway, as he does that, he goes to get his phone, and then he just starts giving me a shave, but not like an open blade shave or like a hot shave or anything, just for like a Remington. Like so he's I can why he started shaving me, right? But he started shaving me while he's flicking through his phone. And then he proceeded to show me like the most horrific images I've ever seen in all my life. Like there was the first, I'm not going into too much details, but there was it wasn't a school bus, but that's sort of the idea, like a bus that had all been sort of shot up with like a dead guy inside it. And he's like, so look at this guy, and he's having a wee chuckle about it. I was like, I think it was fucking funny here. And then another guy whose torso had been eaten by dogs that had just been left out in the street, decapitated, and he's like flicking through these, and I'm like, mate, I only wanted to come in for a fucking haircut. It was the most surreal and horrific haircut I've ever been in. Rob Morris has thought you'd be going to David Gray Barbers in Dunfermline. Rob, yes, I used to go to David Gray Barbers till you realise it's nothing to do with the man himself. So, and they're always heaving. Um, Ronnie says, hi bangers, are we still in Europe? Judging by .net, we're already out. Well, we will come on to that, Ronnie. Kenny said, hi guys, better late than never. Yep, sorry for the late start. And Green Tea says, welcome back, stranger. That's, I guess, you, John. And Real Gut Wrench on Saturday. So, well, we start on the Euro thing. We'll cover that first because we're going to cover that, and then we're going to cover the boardroom changes at Hibs, and then we're going to start looking at our review of last season, kind of going month to month. So we've got July to look at, which were the Premier Sports group stages. Of course, we won't have group stage Premier Sports football to look forward to next season, unlike some. But we did have it this season just passed, and we'll cover those games. So Europe, it was an absolute sickener, John, wasn't it? Yesterday.
A wee bit. I don't know if my feeling about it was slightly swayed because I'd actually been watching the Sunderland Sheffield United game because a mate of mine is a Sunderland fan and I thought it would have been a more entertaining game. So I don't know if that softened the blow somewhat of the the European disappointment. But I was saying to you before we started recording, like I didn't fully understand and haven't understood for weeks now the potential ramifications for Hibs in terms of European qualification had Celtic or Aberdeen won yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
But I had the sort of faintest impression that And I think perhaps other people maybe did too, that if Celtic had won, then we were into the Europa League group stages. And if Aberdeen had won, we would have gone into the Conference League group stages. It was kind of like one or the other, but there was still going to be money. There was still going to be group stage football or whatever. And the reality is quite different from that based upon the diagram that Scott Miller shared, which is, I had to look at it quite closely. Even though, like, for most people, I'm sure it would have been dead simple, but I look at it going, it felt like an exercise in working out the permutations, but it's actually just win this, you're into this one, win this, then you're through. And in
Mm.
fact, the sobering one was, I think if you get past the first game, but get beat in the second game, that's it, you're out.
Not quite, I don't think. Hold on, I'll share the permutations. Colin, how did you feel about it? First of all, while I'm getting them up on the
I,
screen to sort of
I
share.
was disappointed because I think everybody just assumed Celtic would win because they're such a much better team than Aberdeen. Like a few of the teams are. Aberdeen were bottom of the since November. They shared before the cup final. They shared the table since November the 10th or something. They're bottom,
Mhm.
rock bottom. Like worst team in the league since November, and they've managed to go there and sort of play for penalties and get them. Um, and you can't. I mean, fair play to them. Like their penalties were great. They've obviously worked on
Yeah,
defending and practicing the penalties because their penalties were fucking excellent. Top corner jobs. You know what I mean?
all of them, yeah.
Schmeichel didn't near one of them. So and everybody like that's it. What's annoyed me more is probably like folks saying with Hibs that and that. It's like when they talk about control the controllables. You know what I mean? It's like we couldn't do anything. Like we done everything we could other than win the cup. Like the prize for winning the cup is the best European spot, whether you agree with that or no, that is the rule,
Aye.
right? But folk just love to jump on and including Hibs fans, hammer us for it. It's not their fault. Like it's happened twice now, only in Scotland and that. Like it's not happened twice because the last time St Johnstone didn't get group stage either. But did you make that up to make it sound like we're jinxed or something? We finished third, which is what we thought would normally get that prize because Rangers were Celtic normally win the cup.
Aye.
They got unpicked because they won the league that long ago. They're obviously fucking
Going on
off
holiday.
off the boil, aye, and Callum McGregor missed a penalty. You know what I mean? It's like fucking hell. So that's disappointing, but that's the prize. That's the prize. Well done at Aberdeen, I suppose. I'd still for the long term thing of the club. You think finishing third's the best thing, but actually, you as well just look at 5 games and
Just
getting
win
the
the
big
cup.
European spot, and you get the joy that you get the joy of today,
Aye.
yesterday and today, and then you get the best European place for it.
I suppose ideally you want to be competing for both, eh? Like to give yourself the
Aye,
best chance, finish third and win the cup, or if I can win the
yeah,
league and win the cup,
oh, of
like
course you do.
Celtic did. But um,
But when you say to folk, what would you rather have? A lot of folk would say finish third in the league because it's better for the long term. Blah blah blah. You get more money for winning the cup.
well, I mean, you possibly do, but you possibly get a bit more money for the route that we're going in because you have more
Mm.
games. So it depends. This is kind of where I landed on yesterday. So my initial reaction was fucking raging about it. Like we were so close, and it is like you feel like it's been snatched away from you a wee bit. But then I totally agree with you, Colin. When I take a step back, we lost out on guaranteed group stage football when Celtic knocked us out the cup. Like at
Yeah,
that point, you can that's no our prize. Our prize for third is the prize that we've got, and we were relying on Celtic then as a favourite, which didn't happen. It normally would. Like normally, I mean, Celtic have pumped Aberdeen fucking sideways this season, in all but 2 games, I think. And and so you think like the odds were in our favour to kind of go and get a European run that would have been brilliant for the club. So it does feel like we've lost out on something, but we lost out on it when we got beat at Parkhead. Now we can't say, "Oh, we were unlucky because we got Celtic." Aberdeen got Celtic. Do you know what I mean? It's not even
yeah,
like you can sort of pick, the point to the fact that we got put out by the best team in the country because Aberdeen drew them and they went and did what they needed to do to win. They carried a bit of luck and all the rest of it. But they also Aberdeen set up and Rodgers never had a clue how to outplay them. Like they had a lot of ball, but Celtic created nothing in that game. They were awful. Aberdeen absolutely did a number on them, and I kind of find it hard to grudge them that. Like they
yeah.
got the prize for winning the cup. We know at the start of the season what prize you get when you win the cup. They did it. Fair fucks to them. We didn't. We get the prize for third, which is where we're at. So it is. Kieran Gallagher's put I mentioned YouTube, and I quite like this point. There's a lot of people calling out fans online for being gutted about not getting Europe. Find it rather strange that you're not allowed to be annoyed anymore. Only 100% positivity acceptable. I think it's all right to be annoyed about it, like, but it's no Hibs' fault that it
Mhm.
happened. I think that's like a lot of folk sort of directed anger at Hibs. Another thing is, I think folk just assumed that we're going to be knocked out. Like we can still get, in theory, and again, it's difficult. And there's a lot of folks saying, well, you need to be realistic. And I get that, but we've not built a team yet for next season. We didn't care what players we're going to have, what the club's going to do in the window. We're still 2 games away, I think, or 2 or 3 games away from Europa League group stage. And if we didn't get it, we've still got a chance at Conference League group stage. So we could still find ourselves in there, having had a bit of a run to get there. Rather than having 6 games or 8 games, we've had 10 games or 11 games. So this is the route anyway, right? So, John, this was the table you were talking about. So we start off Europa League qualifying round 2 is where we go in. If we win that, we go to qualifying round 3. And if we lose it, we drop down to the Conference League qualifying round 3. So we go on a stage. If we win that, then we go to Conference League playoff. If we lose it, we go out altogether. If we win the playoff, then we're into the Conference League group stages. If we win our European qualifiers, the first one, we go into the second one. If we win the second one, then we go to the playoff, and then we go into the Conference League. If we lose at the playoff stage in the Europa League, we go into the group stage of the Conference League as well. So there is
Oh,
still
right.
a route
Aye,
there for us
that is. And, and
to
I think the problem is we go in as unseeded, and I think where we John, just so you know, if you don't know, where Aberdeen get the spot there that goes in the Euro at the very top, win Europa League playoff. That's where Aberdeen go in.
yeah.
So that's what we could have won almost. The Celtic had actually managed to get their fucking fingers out.
Aye.
So that's the difference. That's the extra games. It's like we need to win 2 games to get to the same stage, 2 ties to get to the same stage that we thought we were going to be in. Um, and that's what as an unseeded team. So it's a lot harder. But who's to say it's not doable? The first one might be more winnable than the second one, but if we lose the second one, then we drop into the Conference League playoff. So it's still
Yeah.
got an extra game to get in the group stages, and that could be like, I don't know, Nottingham Forest or something, I guess now, that we're playing there. So it doesn't mean it's not straightforward. There is more games. Just hopefully we can get a kind draw.
That's it. A kind draw, build a team that can compete and treat it seriously. That we can't go in having it as part of our pre-season like we did with the.
And I'm sure, sorry to ban there, right? I'm sure, like Malky and that, we're sitting saying there's two possibles. We've got the ideal, which is the place Aberdeen have managed to take, or this is the other one if they didn't win, because that's what we actually win by finishing third. Is the one we've got now, and we just look for a bonus
Aye.
because Celtic didn't wipe them out. So they'll have been planning for both. Like they'll have, or not planning for both, but they'll have known both. The thing is, it's like it starts a month earlier. So you're instead of August the 21st of July, the 24th or something. It's a lot earlier, so they need to get the players in earlier. They need to get them settled. Otherwise, we go in with the same team as this year, which has been a good team, but it's going to be the same team as this year minus whoever leaves.
Aye.
So we need to get them in. We can't have the usual fucking it's your pre-season and they're in Norway and Norway teams start their season earlier. So if we'd only played them in August, no excuses. Like we know when we're going in, we know when we're playing. We need to be ready for it.
Aye, 100%. My mood was softened a wee bit as well. I got a nice email into the Long Bangers account for Joe Capaldi for the phone in. Joe said, "Hi Matty, well that was a surprise, Aberdeen beating Celtic. I know a lot of Hibs fans will be disappointed, but I for one am not. Think about it. Our season will start early, so will Long Bangers. And we've got a Europa game to look forward to at Easter Road in July. Also, it'll force Hibs to get their finger out and move quickly in the transfer market. We urgently need another goalkeeper as cover for Jordan, another centre half, especially if Rocky leaves, and another 2 strikers for sure. And most interesting of all, I wonder what will happen with Giannis now that Sunderland are in the Premier League. If he leaves, as I suspect he will, we need another midfield dynamo. Look forward to the show tomorrow." So a nice wee bit of positivity there, kind of just to.
There's a lot of negativity yesterday, and I was as bad for it. Like I was close to arguing with my brother-in-law because he was trying to do the positive thing, and I'm going, "It's fucking shite. It's fucking shite."
But it's shite. Like I mean,
Yeah,
from what it could have been, it is shite. There's no getting away from it.
but when you step back, there's nothing we could have done about it. That was
correct.
our prize. That was what the prize was. It's because we all assumed. And what does assuming do? You know what I mean? It's an answer to you and me.
Correct. Rob said, when we qualify for EuroLeague stage, we'll end up with more cash than the Dons, unless I'm mistaken. Norman said it was a crap final. It really was a crap final.
Right.
I was watching most of the tail. I had to pop out just before full time. So just after Aberdeen scored and caught the last few minutes.
After Schmeichel fucking scored.
After Schmeichel scored.
Somebody's got to have a look at that, by the way. He never got near a penalty. It almost like he deliberately dived the wrong way and he threw the goal in. Schmeichel.
The radio were talking it up like it was an amazing final. I go, what the fuck have you watched? Obviously, the last couple of minutes must have been exciting because.
Well, Aberdeen had a couple of chances actually, like in the extra time, but it's like I watched that whole game and I wasn't going up or thinking, well, I watched the rugby, it was a European final, or I'll watch the Sunderland game. I better watch Aberdeen. Celtic always talk up Scottish football and I always moan when folk talk it down, but it was fucking awful. No, because I would have said that Celtic had won as well.
Aye.
I was saying it during the game as well. So.
Jamie said we've proven over the course of the season we're better than Aberdeen, but they got lucky yesterday. Celtic didn't bother to turn up and their keeper chucked one in. That's life, but fuck the sheep. Ronnie said, was it right that Aberdeen only had 18% possession? Jack C99 said, hello. Kieran said, finishing the third is always a priority, but winning the Scottish Cup should be an equal priority. And Green Tea said, it's the earlier start and being unseeded that's what worries me. That, John, the earlier start is potentially problematic, isn't it?
Aye, just purely because of what Colin was talking about before in terms of, and I think Joel maybe mentioned it in his email to you about getting bodies through the door, getting the squad ready. Because I was going to make a joke that with the sort of timescales, is it mid-July? You're probably looking at starting pre-season next week, just to get everyone ready to go.
Definitely got to be quicker. They're going to be back at normal time now. They're almost, because I'm not sure when the League Cup runs, but this is the rounds of Europe that you don't play in the League Cup for. If we were in the one Aberdeen are in, the League Cup's over and done by the time they're even playing in Europe. So they didn't even need the League Cup off.
See, is there no something to do with player contracts as well? Is it something to do with, like, is it the 1st of June or the 30th of June that players can't sign before or after? Because that's normally when they expire at the conclusion of a season. So will we have difficulty getting players in because of that factor?
You can sign on P contracts and that, can't you?
I would think we'll be all right for that side of things, because it's like every season clubs are dealing with that. Jack said we lose both legs. Round 2, Europa League dropped out of the Conference League. Kieran said, I'm almost 100% sure there's no English teams in the qualifiers for Europa League or Conference if Chelsea win the Conference. No Spanish teams either, which is good. Kenny said Hibs' budget and targets will have been set for finishing third and starting in July. Yesterday's result changes nothing. I like to think that Hibs, like we said, they should have had an eye on both scenarios and ready to act on it, and I don't think this will particularly be
They
problematic.
definitely did. I watched Malky get an interview during the week. I don't know if it was on Gabe Spears one or on the other one he done. He was definitely saying, he definitely referenced the result of the Cup actually making a difference.
Yeah. Ramey said, hi guys, gutted from yesterday. That Yang is worse than Quan. I'm sure Brenda set his team out to lose the cup as he hates the Hibs so much. Stevie says, even all, that was one sick result yesterday. Newcastle tried their best to double the pain today. Stuart said, I should have stuck 20 quid on Aberdeen, which would have guaranteed Europa Cup group stages because I'll lose all my bets. Ronnie says, window opens the 12th of June. There you go, John. 12th of June's the key date there. Kieran said the way Ian Gordon and Black Knights were talking, Celtic had won the cup already and budgets were planned. And Stevie says Don Robertson is a total Hun. Celtic over 80% possession, yet committed 6 more fouls. Pathetic. I wasn't paying attention to the fouls in that ESL, although I did see Maeda should have got a booking for stopping the goalkeeper kicking the ball out. That's like a definite yellow card, like one of these in the argument ones came the referees get the shrugging shoulders and fucking what can I do? I've got to do it. Decided not to do it for him. There. Anyway, right. Enough of the Euro disappointment. I can't be bothered wallowing. It's been a great season. This is the other thing as well, is you didn't want it to go like, fuck, that's it. The season's ended on a downer. It's been a fucking great season. Like, I loved so much it. I had such a good time covering it, and we finished on such a high that you didn't want to go, because it's something that's not even involved us. Like, you didn't want it to kind of go, well, that's it. Or the doom and gloom comes flooding back. Like, just fucking enjoy the season we had. We've got what we deserved from it, which was the third place prize.
Do you think it came flooding back because we hadn't had any for so long?
Maybe.
I think other teams desperate to bring us down to their level, John. You know, it's
I,
other teams desperate to give it the Hibs are falling apart stuff and all that when we weren't playing. We had no input in that game yesterday. If we were playing in that game yesterday, we would be either of the teams because we're better
I,
than them. Based on what Celtic showed yesterday, we couldn't because we never qualified for it.
um, loads of folk were desperate to get the pile in on it. Like it was
Yeah,
something that we'd done. But there you go. It was the best result of Hearts season yesterday.
yeah.
There you go. Right, the board changes. I'm going to read out. Will I read the whole thing, or will I just go right to the changes?
Just do the changes, man.
Just the
Whatever else you got.
changes.
Too many words.
There's a lot. I'm having a wee look at the press release, and I had it ready to kind of go right. So, um, from the 1st of June, what we're seeing on the board is the chairman will be Ian Gordon. The non-executive vice chairman will be Catherine Hamilton, who's already on the board. The executive director will be Tim Bezbachenko, who's from Black Knight. The non-executive director will be Ryan Caswell, also from Black Knight. And then other non-exec directors are Colin Gordon, Malcolm McPherson, and Leslie Robb. So Malcolm McPherson stepping down for it's a non-exec chairman role, I think that he's got, stepping down for that to a non-exec director. Leslie Robb's already on the board as well. So you both, I think, had a chance to look at Hibs. Hibs did like
Interview.
almost like a press release interview with him. What did you take from it? Colin, I'll come to you first.
So what I think, I thought it tightened, sort of showed, you know, a lot of folk, and including ourselves, by the way, there's no criticism, anybody questioned what is the relationship with the Black Knights and their own owners, all of that. I think it showed like that they've kind of cleared the board out, a load of folk, because we had quite a big board, didn't we, at one point? So we've narrowed the size of it. We've got two reps for them. We've got our three or four on the Hibs side, and there seems to be like a bit of I can't think of the word, but like they're working together. Aye, David Brent stuff.
Synergy.
The synergies. Aye, it's like exactly that. They're trying to work together. They're trying to make sure
Yeah.
they're represented. I know they're only minority, they're the biggest minority shareholding and all that, but they're trying to work together with them. They're listening to each other. All the criticisms that we said, they're not listening. You're not listening. We'll do what we want. That they look like they're trying to sort that out. It looks like there's a bit of synergy there. With all the plans they've got. I thought I was fairly happy with it. I mean, I don't really know what all these roles do on a board, non-execs and all that. I think they're there to offer an opinion rather than make decisions. I think the non-exec stuff. But no, I quite liked it. I thought I was quite positive about it. I think.
Colin Gordon coming on as well, which is obviously Ian Gordon's brother, it's another family member on the board.
He replaces his mum.
Yes, yeah. So Kit, I think, is going to concentrate on the community foundation, which is already heavily involved in that. Like I think she's just sort of then able to focus on that. Kenny Whitson's just made the point that they've also said the new CEO is incoming as well. So my understanding is the CEO that's due to come in is on garden leave from their current role, just sort of seeing out their notice period. So should be with us soon. John, what did you make of it?
Well, full disclosure, I watched the interview while I was sat outside my daughter's dance class, so I had a little bit of volume in the closed captions on YouTube, so there's every possibility that I've missed out on some of the final details. But I said to you yesterday that at a very sort of simplistic level, it seemed like a bit of a reshuffle. So Black Knight relationship, originally Bill Foley was on the board, things were buried in, things had maybe fallen out or whatever, but it seems that perhaps the relationship has improved to a degree that Bill Foley is able to take a step back and I can't remember his exact role, but Bezpachenko, he kind of comes in and sits on the board. And it's similar in a way to Colin Gordon's move onto the board with his mother stepping back. So to me, like it all seems like I'm trying not to read too much into it because it like on the face of it, it seems like the necessary moves for the necessary people into the necessary positions. Beyond that, I've got some stupid questions because I don't know what the difference is between an executive and a non-executive director.
I think
If you could explain it, that would be helpful.
I think if you're an executive director, you're paid for it. Like, and I know some non-exec directors get paid, but I think that's like one of the differences at Hibs. I think if you're a non-exec director at Hibs, you're not paid for it. It's like as colleges, it's like a sort of more consultancy, like you're providing the check and challenge to it. Whereas I think if you're on the service, a director on the board, you're a bit more involved in the day to day. But I'm sure somebody can kind of there'll be legal like definitions for them as well. But I don't really understand them. But I think in practical terms, that's kind of what the difference is.
And beyond keeping order in a meeting, what does a chairman do? What's their role at the board meetings?
It's the chairs. That makes sure
She's
everyone's
welcome.
feet.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Aye.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, is there much to read into, say, Ian Gordon becoming chairman? I don't think so.
Guess you'll have the cast and vote and stuff, eh? Like,
Aye.
if there's,
Because he's
You know-
owner as well. Do you know, like
Aye.
through the Gordon family, like he's sort of ultimately accountable for it all.
Does that pose any concerns to either of you? That as the owner, like he's got the final say on everything.
makes sense.
Not for me. No, I think we're a long way from the oh shit, Ian Gordon's the head of recruitment days. Do you know where there was that panic? And actually, if you remember back to the conversations we had then, Colin, you sort of called out at the time that was Ron Gordon teeing up his laddie for running the club. Hibs have positioned him as sort of been learning off of learning off of Ben Kensell, which I know some people will sort of balk at the idea of that, but he has been getting primed for this sort of role for a number of years now. But I think with a look at it, he's got good people around about him. Colin, I agree with you. You're saying about the sort of the everybody shooting in the same direction. I think it's the first sign that we've really had about how well that relationship with Black Knight is working and what we can expect going forward. So we watched an interview. Tim Bezbachenko was talking a lot about. So first, why he replaced Bill Foley. So he said Bill Foley is still going to be very hands-on, but he'll kind of almost do that through Tim because Tim's based in the UK. It's easier for him to kind of get up to Easter Road, get to the games, etc., and have the meetings in the same time zone and all that kind of thing. But it looked like there's a clear plan for. We've got what I liked about it is we've got people in there to look after Hibs' interest, and then we've got people in there to look after getting the best from the group. So not necessarily for the group, although there will be an element to that, but it's like a Hibs first focus with people there to make sure that we're no missing a trick. So when they talked about recruitment, it's not three guys sitting and looking at the data at HTC and making a case. We've got like that whole wider network that we can tap into, but we've got somebody there to make sure that coordination is happening. I thought they spoke about the group stages. No necessarily that we've definitely had it, but that's the ambition is to be group stages, and they want to build a squad to compete for that, which I thought showed a good level of ambition as well. But the whole I felt quite positive after it. Like I think now you can see they're talking about they had the supporters panel last week. One of the things that came out there was about a bit more detail on the redevelopment at HTC. So I think we're now seeing like the sort of the tangible things that were coming for the relationship, and the less quantifiable ones like the best practice and the recruitment, etc., starting to come through now as well. So I thought it was encouraging. I'm quite happy with the moves. We'll see what the CEO when he comes in. He's going to look after the commercial side of it, I believe, and we've got Malky looking after the football. So it seems to make sense, which is like sort of the main thing, doesn't it? Is like if you look at it, does it pass a sense check? And it definitely does.
Yeah, and there's obviously closer links with because of the group through to Bournemouth now. Because I think they said the first team are going to go down there in the summer for a few days. They've got that new state of the art training facility. Play against Bournemouth while they're there and all that. Be a lot of bit of learning there. I don't think Bournemouth qualified for Europe in the end. I was just checking the table. They finished ninth, but obviously with Palace and that one in the cup, that's probably fucked that up to some extent as well. And Tottenham, I don't know if that's all Tottenham finishing just above the relegation.
Tottenham going to the Champions League now, don't they?
Aye. And they just fucking, if the three teams that come up, then you just automatically relegated there. They're like, they never even got the 40 points this season, and they're in the Champions League. Like they're just the spot above relegation this season.
Only in Scotland,
Only in Scotland. So it's yeah. So anyway, Bournemouth didn't. I don't think they qualified for Europe based on what I'm seeing on the BBC with the lines or in the teams that did. By the way, did you see the Villa fucking the goal that got chopped off? The VAR couldn't overturn it because the referee blew the whistle as the guy was tapping in.
was
And we talked about the offside, no waiting on the offside calls, and like somebody might get injured. Well, this one, the boy was two, he was on the whistle, as the boy was scoring.
Geez,
Because he thought he had fouled the goalie. Never the goalie just made an arse of it. And
so
goal chopped
I,
off, VR can't get involved.
I'm no. I saw like it on Twitter, so I've not seen it properly. I've seen it once, and they saying the goalkeeper never had the two hands on the ball, but the keeper's touched it with his hands first, isn't he?
Yeah, he dropped
I,
it.
I think they'll make an argument that
They will.
he's still in control of it.
To bail the ref out. Aye, they will to bail the ref out, yeah.
But I think it's like when the keeper bounces the ball.
Aye, they say he's still in control.
How you kind of take it off him? I think that's the line that
Not
they'll
in
go
his
down
hands,
with.
though. I know, but they will. 100% agree. I knew that. As soon as they'd done it, I thought they'll back the ref here by saying that the goalie is in control of the ball. He wasn't in control of the ball. That's how the guy managed to dink it round him.
Aye. But I saw it and I thought, I don't think it's as outrageous as everybody's making out, because there is an easy get out there for to justify the decision.
Aye, but that doesn't mean it's right. But
No,
that's what they'll do.
doesn't, but they will. Aye.
Because that's what they do. You look at how the Rangers Celtic calls in the last week, with how they're all now coming out, the ref's view and all the pundits saying that it should have been a goal. It's obviously over the line. The same ones that said that you can't, it's inconclusive against when the ball went out. I think they're both over the line, the Celtic one and the Rangers one.
Yeah.
But you can't have both. It's like one or the other, right? You can't. Aye. But they're happy to jump in just. Well, in this case, for who is making the most noise, but down there, because that's cost the Villa millions and millions of pounds.
Aye, huge. There was a thing I saw on Twitter. They were going to complain about the fact it was an inexperienced referee that got such a big game.
All right. It's not a big game, though. Man United are getting relegated. Like, Man United are almost in the relegation spots.
Aye. Right, Green Tea said the Gordon's own the club, so having Ian as chairman with cast vote would make no difference. Just wish he had a bit more charisma and came over more relaxed when speaking publicly. Kieran said we've got a 50-50 chance of getting a 50-50 winnable tie, if that makes sense. There's a
25% chance.
Doctor says 50-50, but there's only a 10% chance of that for Naked Gun fans there. Right, we're going to go and look at last July, right, which is to kick off our season review. But just before I do, we got asked by Tom Lawrence on our Facebook page. So if you're on Facebook, you can join our page there.
Oh, aye, mind that message I was to remind you about. Mind.
I've got it here. So Tom says, Mike, can I ask a favour, please? I'm on the committee at Dnipro Kids. It's the charity's 20th anniversary later this year. We're planning a dinner at Easter Road on Friday, the 10th of October. It's an international weekend, so no Hibs game. We'll be providing full details shortly, but if you would give us a mention, it would be greatly appreciated. So there you go, folks. Watch out for the Dnipro Kids charity dinner as well. Though, if you've got them on, follow them on the different socials, you'll find out the details as it comes out, and no doubt across the forums as well, who normally are very supportive of Dnipro Kids. Right, last July, guys. Can you cast your mind back? What were you doing at the start of last season, Colin? Were you still on holiday at this point?
Come up done the last few days.
Tell me.
You told me to prep for. You actually, like you said, the first 2 months of the season, right? I was listening to the podcasts from the Longbangers podcast. It's the best. I googled best Hibs podcast, right? And I picked this one, and I listened to the podcast from the Elgin City game, and then Kelty and St Mirren big game. Was that all July? That would be August by then, eh? So I'm into August.
Aye, St Mirren was the start of August.
And then I started listening to the Dundee 2-2. I jumped to Celtic game. And just to see what the mood was at the time and that, see what we were saying. I said what we were saying. I wasn't on a couple of them, was used to, which made it easier for me to listen, because I hate listening to myself. Which a lot of folk find surprising. I
like the sound of your own voice at the time, but not retrospectively. Aye, I'm in that boat as well, mate. Don't worry about
it. So, because it was the first two I listened to, because I listened to in Gran Canaria, I was on holiday. It was funny listening back, because you mentioned me a couple of times in that. It was John, you were saying stuff like, I can feel someday, I think it's Colin pulling me back here, talking about expectations, because we'd hammered something Elgin 5-0 or something, and you were like, I'd get all excited, and then you're thinking, what would Colin be saying? He'd be going, calm the fuck, it's just Elgin. But it was interesting how the negativity was kicking about so badly, including ourselves, by the way. a lot of the messages coming in. But yeah, we were definitely a bit negative. We fit to John though. He was there trying to defend Venti. We always might.
So
I am nothing if not consistent.
the very first game that we've got, right, so we'll not include the friendlies, right, but that Elgin game that you mentioned there, I can't imagine we were negative after this one. 5-0 win.
No.
Venti hat trick.
Yes.
Ekpiteta scored, which would have been his competitive debut.
And at that time he was christened Ekpiteta Saved My Life, if you remember.
Oh, I
if you
remember
remember
that for the baked potato song.
Yeah.
I think we would have kept that going if he'd been in the team all season.
I wondered that because I
It would have come
wondered
back.
when it stopped.
Aye.
I wondered. I was so I've not got that far yet.
When you could, yeah, when you were thinking he was costing us our lives by taking years off it with the goals we were conceding, but then when he started turning it around, I think by the end of the season, if Equiteta had been in the team, we definitely would have had that back. So lineup: Bursick, Lewis Miller, Ekpiteta, and O'Hora on the left. So Miller at right centre half, O'Hora at left centre half, and Ekpiteta in the centre half. Chris Cadden, Josh Campbell, Joe Noodle, Joe Noodle, Joe Newell, Rudy Molotnikov, and Jordan Abita, and then Venti and Boyle up top. It's no bad team, like really, is it?
3-5-2. No, it's like 3-5-2.
We started 3-5-2, which was weird. Remember, like, because there is that line of thinking that 3-5-2 was forced upon us. You know, like David Gray at the loss, who was it? Jordan Abita got sent off at Dundee. Had no other option but to go 3-5-2, ignoring the fact that there's fucking countless other formations that you could pick. But we did start off the season in a 3-5-2, and actually we played. I remember talking about, and Colin, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but the work ethic of the team and the professionalism. Like we approached that game so well.
Yeah.
We made sure we won. We kept going. It wasn't like we got to 3-0 and then put the brakes on. We just kept going, and I think at this point we started talking about what we might expect from the David Gray team.
Was there not a bit of criticism at the time online that David Gray was being a little bit too conservative by playing 3-5-2 against Elgin? Am I misremembering that? No, I'm not misremembering it. That absolutely happened.
Did it? I can't remember that side of it, but I'm not doubting you, John, at all. But I remember us being quite positive about, like, well, a 5-0 win. Like, of course, you're going to be positive about it. The next game we had was Queen's Park again at Easter Road. 5-1 win this time. Scorers were O'Hora, 2 for Boyle, Molotnikov, and Dylan Levitt. The lineup with Bursick and goals. At this point, I think we were still quite positive about Bursick as well. Like, coming for crosses and he's being decisive. I think I remember that kind of being one of the things that we picked out about.
They've been keen. This game was nearly mentioned, right? This must have been a midweek one, so we kind of jumped for Elgin, I think, to Kelty. Obviously, there was a midweek one in between. But I would assume there would have been. It was nearly mentioned much, to be honest with you, on those things, because obviously Kelty was the Smith played.
Mm-hmm.
But we would have been. That would have been the natural thing to try and support him, because folk even said that about Zibby when he came in. Like, oh, he came and punched the cross away in Ireland and that.
Aye.
And he was fucking hopeless. So,
John,
yeah, that would have been the case, definitely.
Was this the one we were at hospitality with Greg, John? Boyle scored overhead kick in this game.
You might be right actually. Like he sort of fell over and it shinned it in.
The keeper just let it go right through him.
Yeah, to be honest, I've been trying to remember Queen's Park goal. Seeing the scoreline, but I cannot. In fact, I'm looking at the scorers now. I think O'Hora scored a decent header. I don't remember Molotnikov or Levitt's goals either. So, maybe we got a wee bit pissed and just enjoyed ourselves. Nice stress.
Ronnie on the YouTube comments is this is probably one of the most notable things that came out of that game. Yuan got injured against Queen Park and challenged, didn't he?
Oh, right at the end.
Right at the end. So he's come off the bench and.
So no, this wasn't a game that you and I were at, because I'm pretty certain that I was over in the East Stand with my mate. Because I decided to remember looking down on Yuan as he got injured, thinking, all right, okay, that's probably fucked up the summer transfer fee.
Interestingly, the Elgin game, before that, everybody was asking, "Where's Ewan? Why is he not playing?" And the explanation was he was ill. He didn't travel. And we've heard that a few times this season.
Aye, we have is the go-to.
Mm.
So we did change shape for this one according to according to Google. So we had Bursick and goals, Lewis Miller at right back, Ekpiteta and O'Hara as the two centre halves, and a beat at left back. Mariah Welsh, Joe Newell as the sort of two defensive midfielders. Boyle on the right, Josh Campbell in the middle, and Molotnikov on the left, and then Vente is the lone striker. I can't remember if this was the last time we saw Vente or whether he featured against Kelty. We'll find out in a minute, I suppose. But
I think, if I remember rightly, Venti got a bit of stick for having not scored against Queen's Park. And I seem to recall that we maybe had a bit of chat about the horses for courses stuff that Gray was coming out with at the start of the season. Colin, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that might have came out at the time.
The Venti stuff at the time, he was the only striker. That was a lot of the complaints. As well. If we've got one striker and he's not scoring goals, he scored a hat-trick in the first game, and I don't think he scored after that. And there's a lot of questions coming up about why we've only got one striker. We've got we've got one who doesn't score goals, or why are we crossing in the box? He's not tall enough to win headers. Stuff like that. That was a lot of and a lot of the negativity, especially after the Kelty game, which we've not covered yet. So I'll maybe wait. But it was quite positive at this point. We're doing well. We're beating teams we should be beating comfortably. That was the kind of.
aye,
This is good. We should be beating a lower league team. One of your predictions or hopes for the season was, Matthew, that
just
we
be
did
normal.
anything stupid. Aye, be normal. And here we've got going away, pumped them. Queen's Park, harder game, pumped them. Everything's looking good. That was the main sort of thought process at this time.
And then, of course, we went to Deepest Darkest Fife.
Yeah.
And we faced Kelty Hearts. So 4-3-3 is how we lined up in this game. Jordan Smith made his debut. Lewis Miller right back, O'Hara and Bashiri as the two centre halves, and Megwa at left back. We had Luke Amos, Dylan Levitt, and Molotnikov as the midfield. Harry McCurdy, Martin Boyle, and Dylan Vente.
Harry McCurdy.
Harry McCurdy. So this one, obviously, the game itself. So this was when we were up at, and it was fucking dreadful. Like Hibs a lot of the ball as you'd expect, but it was like a proper slog, and one of these games where you just knew that something was going to go wrong. Like it just had that vibe about it. It was like a good support sunny day. Like we'd been going well. I think their goal comes to like a corner or a free kick, like a ball into the box. Keeper doesn't cover himself in glory for it. Boy gets a header in, that's it, 1-0. They actually had I think they hit the bar or the post just after it, or just before. Like we'd either just had the warning, or we nearly conceded just after it. I don't think any player really came out of that game looking, with any great credit.
So what happened? What was said, and I'll listen to this one earlier on today. Actually, was a lot of we've no depth. We've got the same players as last year that we weren't ready. Matthew, you really criticised Rocky actually in this one, in that he didn't want to win the ball in the box. Almost written him off, pretty much. Not to call you out, but that was where it was going.
Yeah,
and that was what we were saying at the time. Or I wasn't on this one. You two were saying at the time, and that we've no depth. We've got one striker. He doesn't look like he can score goals, and you reminded me he got a hat trick 2 games ago. But that was the chat.
He was averaging a goal a game at that point, and we chased him out.
hounded him. I think the criticism was that there was too many changes. Do you know, like too many changes in one go. But actually, it's interesting. You look at it. So you've got like Megwa got a 4-year deal on the back. Smith became our permanent, like our first choice goalkeeper. Rocky obviously ended up having a stellar season for us. O'Hara found his way back into the team. Lewis Miller got and not only into the team, but in an international place as well. Amos emptied in January. Levitt turned into a real key player for us. He got 2.5 stars on the match rating.
Can I just, if I could just jump in there at Levitt? Levitt was the one where you actually said you're that close to the fans, and there was somebody basically shouted in his fucking ear, Levy, you're never a fucking Hibs player in your life, or
Aye,
something like that, and you
he
were
did. Aye,
disgusted and called out at the time. Not with the guy because you were scared of him or whatever, but
Yep.
you called out on the podcast when you're safe behind your Zoom
aye.
camera.
A keyboard warrior, eh?
But you did, and you said that because it's like you're saying we're so close, like there's no way you couldn't hear it. And that was in that game there where he got hammered. Interesting though, because a lot of folk wrote Smith off after that game, and that was why people didn't want him in, and almost some were willing that he wasn't good in the Aberdeen game when he came in the team. It's hardly mentioned. You fat guys hardly mentioned that.
I think there's
His
some.
mistake.
I'm just having a look at the squad, and like obviously we're talking about the change in formation and some of the players that came in, and I think there's maybe some not necessarily parallels, but pitfalls that the club need to be aware of going into this season. So the games that we're talking about started on the 13th of July.
Yeah.
Sorry, the Elgin game started on the 13th of July. So we're going to find ourselves in a similar situation in a very short period of time when we're trying to compete in Europe to progress through the different rounds. I think the squad that we had at the start of the last season, it was disjointed, it was unsuccessful, there was a bad atmosphere about the place. And there was a lot of players still to come in. Like even like when we're talking about like Smith and Bursick there, like we found ourselves in a really odd position where, and it still baffles me to this day, where you have a loan signing who's your number one, and you've got a contracted player who's your number two. And actually,
I didn't get why that's confusing. Like
it
Peterhead started
just
most of the season, was a loan signing. Jantis played centre
it's
midfield all
maybe
season for us.
it's
Why no
maybe
Mariah Welsh?
it's maybe
Position,
because of
eh?
the situation. It's maybe because of the position. I took the words out of my mouth. It seems to me that you want stability and continuity there, and it took us a while to get that stability and continuity. And I don't know if this played into David Gray's thoughts, but it did take a while to drop Bursick
Hmm.
and get Smith in. But
That's
also getting Smith in,
uh-huh.
I think you had the Aberdeen game. Was that the 3-3?
Mhm.
Was that one of Smith's first appearances? Around
Aye.
about the same time, you've got the emergence of Jack Iredale, for example, who wasn't in the squad at the start of the season. The difference that we have this season going into the Europa League qualifiers, whatever it happens to be, is you now have a team on a high. You have some stability there. You have other players that have been moved on in the winter transfer window. The challenge for the club now, of course, is to capitalise on that relative position of strength, if you like.
I think the thing with sticking with Bursick for as long as we do is I think managers are generally really reluctant to swap a goalkeeper once they've picked a number one. They give them like more rope than they would give other players, I think, because a goalie makes a mistake, it tends to result in a goal against you, like or like a near miss kind of thing, and they tend to like no just drop them at the first sign of mistake. But we definitely could have done with Bursick dropping it sooner. Um, McCurdy got hammered in that game as well. Venty picked up a yellow card, and I can't even remember what he got booked for, but I think that was the only notable thing that he did that game. It was just a brutal one. Like I remember coming away for the game and you're almost like trying to just go, oh, it's fucking pre-season. We're going to win the group anyway. It doesn't really make much difference in the grand scheme of things. And obviously it did because it meant we were unseeded going into the next draw. And we ended up playing
Almost like I
Celtic.
think I don't know if it was said directly, but he's kind of were touching on it. It was almost like we made. I think he said we made too many changes, right?
Uh-huh.
But it was like he never said these words directly, but we treated it like pre-season,
Aye.
which is what we said we wouldn't because the League Cup was important. And then by treating it like pre-season, we got beat, and then we got Celtic away.
Aye. We got a pre-season result. Kieran said we were all right to criticise them. By the way, like we're all right to praise them when we win. I think that's fair as well, Kieran. Like we always just try to call it as we see it. Like we never. I think we never shy away from criticising the players. Like not on the podcast, but we always try to be fair.
My rule is
Um,
that I'll only say something on here that I'd be willing to say to somebody's face.
aye,
That's my
John.
that's my wee personal rule.
No for the safety behind the microphone.
John, you're like the champion of the underdog. Like you
Hmm.
tend not to want to criticise the players, but you've criticised as well. You know when it's been wanted. I think the difference I always think like is we try to say somebody had a shite game rather than they're a shite player. Like there's
Yeah.
that difference. It's something that's happened that's been bad, or not necessarily the person that's bad, if that makes sense.
I think the most critical that I recall being of any players was Will Fish and Ely Yuan after a derby at Tynecastle, where I left just after half time because I was furious. Um, but no, since then, like it's genuinely like it is aye, shite game, not shite player. And I think with some of the names that were being reeled off there, in particular Levitt, I do distinct before I had that wee break, I do remember talking about the difference and the contribution that the sort of fringe players were making to the team and the performances. And like you see that at the start of the season, Levitt, someone in his ear saying you're never a fucking football player, whatever it was that were said. Um, and this is probably why I'm that champion and underdog, because things can change,
Yeah,
things
and we've
can
seen it this
improve, and
season.
you can
Yeah,
have that season that we just had. Didn't get me wrong, like you do require like a lot of variables and factors going your way, but they can go your way. Similar to what you're saying about the Europa League.
they're just. We played Watford and a friend. I'm not going to go into that one, but that was notable for one thing in particular. Who remembers the notable thing that happened in that game?
The streaker.
Wasn't that? No, it wasn't.
No.
No, that was another game we did that. Harry McCurdy scored.
Really did.
Oh shit, yeah.
I watched
Wasn't
that on the
it?
iPad. I didn't. I watched it on the iPad at the training centre. Didn't even go. I didn't go to pre-season games, and I'm not intending to go in this year.
He got a goal against, was it Edinburgh City as
He
well?
did. Aye, there's
Aye.
two goals came in that pre-season.
It's prolific as fuck, like that pre-season.
And non-competitive games.
Aye. Right, and then the last one was we played Peterhead, Easter Road. Maybe this was the one we were at, John, together. So 4-0 win is how we saw out July. We had goals from bloody hell, Lewis Miller, two goals.
Aye.
Malotnikov and Mariah Welsh. The
Lewis
team,
Miller was on the perfect hat trick because John suggested that we should have been getting him forward for every as much as we could because when the right back ever got to get the perfect hat trick, that was the chat there.
Did Mariah Welsh score a decent goal in that game? Was that a bit
aye,
of a screamer?
it was a good goal. Right, line up there. So Bursic came back in goals with Lewis Miller at right back, Ekpiteta and O'Hara as the two centre halves, Beat at left back, Mariah Welsh, Joe Newell, Martin Boyle, Josh Campbell, Rudy Molotnikov, and Dylan Vente. It's interesting that Vente featured so heavily through the pre-season games because he got shipped out as pretty much at the first opportunity for.
He was the only striker in the book, so
Of
that
course,
was
because
what that
Yuan
was
would have
what
been
the
injured.
chat
Yeah,
was. Yeah, and we're still playing Boyle at wide at this time.
we
We were
should
having
have.
conversations about going. We need to buy players. We need to get players in. But
Mm.
we said, we've said we've changed stuff. We've not changed anything. We've still got the same bulk of squad as we had last year. Where's the midfielder that's going to control the midfield? All that chat. Where's the strikers? We've got one.
So I'm looking at the forwards, the strikers that we had this season, and it was Yuan, Vente, Boyle, McCurdy, Bowie, Hoylett, Tavares, Gale, Landers, Kaharovic, and I think there's a fair chunk of them came in or there were moves after these games. So Vente, on reflection, getting a bit of stick, unfairly being unfairly in terms of being the only available striker and not performing particularly well.
Aye,
Because McCurdy wasn't doing anything for us. Boyle at the start of the season, he came
He's
onto a
banging the
game.
goals in, mate. Like,
he was still less than his goal average was still less than Vente's. Even though Vente only scored the hat trick in that game.
But actually, and I suppose this is probably to like I realise, sorry, this is like flashback, flash forward stuff. But looking at some of those additions that the club made to the squad, you can see the difference that they made. That can give you a bit of confidence that they've got the necessary skills to do it again.
Aye. It's interesting that O'Hara and Ekpiteta centre half pairing was obviously seen as like that. That was what our centre half pairing was going to be for the season. So it's interesting when you reflect back to think actually Ekpiteta ended up out the team when he was coming on to a game at the expense of at his expense, but in favour of Rocky. And like you can't have any complaints that he never displaced Rocky to get back into the team. But he'll maybe be looking at this window and thinking that this might be his chance to kind of come in and have another go at it. Molotnikov featured like quite heavily in the early games as well, and then ended up like he kind of picked up injuries and stuff like that.
you know, he did, but we actually spoke about it because I think I was back for was it Peterhead game?
Aye,
I
this
think
is a
it was.
Peterhead one, yeah.
Aye, so I wasn't at it, but I think I hosted it and asked you guys the questions. Um, and they were talking about Molotnikov, and it was like, and the listeners had messaged in and stuff, and it was like, we kind of agreed we'd rather he didn't go on loan and he got a chance at games, blah blah blah, because it's like that football manager. We get players through the academy, highly rated, and just go missing in the lower leagues. And we were kind of hopeful that Molotnikov was going to break that trend, and he hasn't. And now there's talk of getting him out on loan, and you think
Aye.
it's almost a death sentence, man. It's like, like how many players have we sent out on loan that have actually been able to come back and do something? And I think the only example really is Josh Campbell, and that was like he was almost written off. Like
Mhm.
when he came back, it was almost like he's just still got a year left, and we can't send him out on loan anymore. And then he got in the team, and he's still here. But other than that, there's not been many that have went out and like in recent times. Obviously, Kenny Miller, and Gary O'Connor, and Derek Riordan all went out on loan for tiny short periods of time, but were too good and got
Aye.
called back. Since then, they just go out on loan, and that's them drift off into obscurity.
It's interesting though, like Kelty result aside, and I think we kind of spoke about it at the time. It was almost when we were reviewing that, we always like sort of respect, well, ignore what, like forget about what happened to Kelty because that was almost like a one-off. All pretty positive. Like the next game creates in August, which we'll pick up next week, which we went to St Mirren. But they probably didn't have a sense of what was about to come at this point through those games. Like I thought we equipped ourselves, other than the Celtic game. Obviously, we equipped ourselves pretty well. We spoke about. I definitely remember the professionalism, the attitude, the work rate, and everything was all really good. Like we were aggressive when we needed to be and everything, and it
I
felt
was
like we were.
concerned about the squad. There was concern about the squad,
Yeah,
right? Not just for us, for the people messaging in. So yeah, there was a bit of that Kelty game did raise questions. Like if
aye,
you listen back to them, there's definitely a I've done all right because even that game, the Peterhead one. I don't know if you remember this because I asked you this because I was interested. I think you maybe were hospitality that day. That did you guys realise that at one point we were close to finishing second in the group because
aye,
Queen's Park were hammering somebody, Elgin
yes,
maybe, and
aye,
we were like we needed to score more to make
uh-huh,
sure we finished top of the group, even though we both got out of it in the end. It wouldn't have mattered probably if we finished second. Other than it would have added a lot of negativity. We didn't even win the group. There's at least we won the group. We just lost 8 points, which meant we only seeded. It would have been the same scenario, but we would have come second in the group to Queen's Park. But it was close at one point. Like I think
aye,
we were maybe 2 or 3 nil up, and they were 3 or 4 nil up, and you're going, how the fuck are they? Because the only game they lost was to us. Um,
aye.
and that was their goal difference was really tight with us.
It's the magic of the League Cup group stages.
Check the League Cup.
It's,
It's
it's
a
good to know
pre-season
being.
tournament.
Aye,
Other teams will tell you it's not. It is. It's a pre-season tournament, and that's how there's always a couple of shocks in there because Premier League teams just can't. They don't carry the squad somehow to be able to go and beat fucking Kelty Hearts.
it's mental because surely Celtic Hearts are doing the same with their pre-season. Like how are they
Well, do you
rotating their
know?
players? And
Interestingly, you said that at the time, like so you're consistent, right? Because it was like there were a lot of people saying, "Well, we've got to change the players, and they've got too many games, and we need to rest them." You're like, "Kelly Hearts played Saturday, and they've played this, or Wednesday, and they've played this Saturday. How's their players matching it?"
aye, doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's just an excuse. Anyway, right. We'll wrap up there. I quite enjoyed that. We'll do August next week, and we'll maybe do August and September because we'll not have. Well, assuming there's no board changes or anything, or fucking Euro spanners getting chucked in the works that we need to cover off. We'll have a bit more time to spend on the games. Big ask from us if you don't already subscribe as a YouTube subscriber, like the free charge thing, go and do that for us. It helps us. If you do that, but you're not a subscriber to like Patreon or a YouTube member, that really helps the podcast if you do that as well, because that kind of pays the way pretty much. Like it means we can keep doing them. We will be putting content out all the way through the summer. I'm not sure there are good Hibs podcasts out there, like so down the Slope of the Ramble that you've got a chance to kind of go listen to others. I don't know what their plans are for the pre-season, but we will be putting content out all summer. So please recommend this to somebody. If you can go to Spotify and Apple and put reviews on. That also helps us kind of with their algorithms and that if you give us 5 stars. So a wee plea for that. And then just come back next week. We'll have extra time tomorrow for subscribers where we'll be revisiting our season predictions. So we did them at the start of the season. We did them in January where we got a chance to tweak a couple. So we'll see how close or far off we were when we do that episode tomorrow. Always a good fun one to do. And then on Thursday, I will open the phone in. Don't know how many folk will come on, if anybody can be asked talking about Hibs by then or not. So we might do the phone in. If enough people turn up, we'll have it. If they didn't, we'll know. We never know in advance. So if you tune in on Thursday and nobody's here, that's what's happened. Nobody's turned up for it. That's pre-season, understandable. Right. Thanks for tuning in, John. Been lovely having you back on. Colin, it's always lovely having you back on as well. And we'll see you all